Before I start today's subject, dressing for court, I want to ask for your forgiveness. This is not meant to offend you, but to advise you in a friendly way. I have been watching recently that the standard of dressing in courts has not been up to mark, and most of the errors that are made are done unintentionally. There is a story about the famous judge, Justice V.C. George. A lawyer had appeared before him. He wasn't attired properly, and the judge said, "I cannot hear you." The lawyer then increased his volume. Judge repeated what he said. The volume was again increased. The judge cautioned him the third time. The volume was increased. And then the judge said, "You are not properly attired for open court, and therefore I cannot hear you. You have to be properly robed." At which point the lawyer said, "What has sartorial taste, to which tailor I go, to do with justice?" The answer is quite a bit. I think many things maketh a man. Courtesy for start, honesty for second. But I think dressing is also very important. Let me start with chamber dressing. You have to go to court and you have to be dressed either in black or in deep tints of blue or grey. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I've noticed lawyers have the habit of buttoning all their buttons this way. It's never done. This is to be left unbuttoned. Why is that? When you sit down, you must undo the button. When you rise, you must button, but only one button. If you have 3 buttons, you can do 2, but the last is left open. Why is that? Because by tradition, the last button is only put on and closed on your funeral day. So try never to close the button. There are other reasons for it. No time for me to explain, but this is one explanation. The second thing that you have to do is, some people use pocket squares. I do. It's my personal habit. I learned this in the armed forces when I was a soldier 35 years ago. Using a pocket square was a required item in those days. And then because I was English trained, everybody used a pocket square. And what they would do is they would never use matching pocket squares. The pocket square would be the same color as the tie, but the pocket square would have a different texture to it, or a color or a design, so that there is some contrast. So that's a mark, it says, of high sartorial value. The next thing is, you don't have to wear, in one of Anwar Ibrahim's case, they said, biryani suits. You don't have to wear biryani suits to impress the court. You only need to have a locally made suit that is clean. When you have your sleeves, they cannot be out an inch like this. It must only be half an inch. And when you put your hands down, only a little bit of your hands should be showing. So I have a watch, and therefore this part of the cuff actually is pushed back. The next thing that you do is, it's always more elegant to use cuffs like this. So those are French cuffs. But some people have trunk cuffs, where an external cuff is not used, but the cuff is a button. That's also fine. But the point I'm trying to make is how you wear your shirt. So let me take this jacket out and show you how it should be worn. When you wear a shirt, make sure that the collar is very clean. Do not come to court where the back of the collar is dirty or this part of the collar is dirty, because the judge can only see this part of your shoulder. And so this has got to be really clean. And when you move your hands in court, you really have to make sure that your shirt is properly ironed and it's not untidy. Second, do not have cuffs which are very short like this. That's not class. You can wear a cheap shirt, but ensure when you buy a shirt, it covers up to your joint of the last phalange of your little finger here. Okay? So it must come up to here when you measure. So when you put it on, it will go back a little bit, and that'll be enough. The next thing is concerning how you tie your tie. Tying the tie is an art. And I am told, I've read some books on it, there are 72 different knots that can be made on a tie depending on the material of the tie, the time of the day for which you're going for a function, how stylistic you want to appear to be. There are people who can tie a tie in a different way and make this portion come forward to make it look very artistic. That's all fine. I use a quarter Windsor. I like a quarter Windsor because it's very, very fast and it has a little knot here that I like, but you might develop your own style. But I've seen people turn up in court with a knot that's the size of a tennis ball. That's inelegant. And then I've seen people come like this to court. That's not good. So make sure it's nice and tight. How tight should your collar be? It's 2 fingers tight. If you put 2 fingers into your collar, it should still give you room to move. That is a correct tightness. Understand this rule. So the other thing is, how is the shirt to be worn in relation to the trousers? Because I was in the army, what they taught us was, if this is the zip line has to be on the same line as the belt and the shirt line. But some people will move the head of the belt to the center, that's fine. The other thing, and the most important thing, is your shoe. Your shoe, no matter how old it is, it must be properly brushed. The ledges of the shoes, you must use an old toothbrush and ensure all the debris is taken out. And your shoes must be wiped clean. This is something I do every morning. When I get to do my shoes, I will make sure that they are cleaned by me personally. I have shoe trees, pieces of wood I put inside the shoes to keep it in shape. And then when I take it out, I will clean it. When I go back, I will brush it, put it back. On Sundays, when I've got a few minutes free, I'll sign your shoes. So I've got about 5 or 6 shoes. Wife will contest that number. She will multiply that by 4, which I've been using for about 20 years. Always clean, always shining, at least brushed. What's the point of spending 2,000 ringgit buying a pair of shoes and then throwing it away after 4 years? If you look after a shoe properly, it will look after you for a long time. The belt should be black. If you're going to wear it, it shouldn't be discolored. Try and use some kiwi and color it. Now, what about facial hair? If you've got a moustache like mine, make sure it's properly trimmed, all the edges are cut. And if you have a beard, make sure it's nicely combed. Don't turn up in court looking like you're just woken out of bed. Some people have a particular hairstyle. They like to do that and fluff up their hair to give it, what I'm told, greater volume. I mean, fine, but don't look untidy. The other thing is, your mouth must smell clean. Some people have particular kinds of illnesses that creates culture of bacteria in certain parts of their esophagus and it gives off a bad smell. Or some people don't brush their teeth properly. And so when they open their mouth and they speak, the judge can smell you over a distance of 3 feet. And that will immediately stop the judge paying attention to you. Please, for goodness sake, cut your fingernails, keep your hands clean when you come before a judge, because the judge can see it. I was once told that the registrar before whom I was arguing was distracted by a ring I wore, and I took off the ring after that. Don't distract the judges. Look neat, look clean. Make sure the collars are nice and neat. Sometimes when you want to have a decent collar, you can have a collar stiffener like this. It's made of metal, see? It's a stiffener. So I buy these stiffeners and I ensure that I put them in the collar so that when I tie my tie and I pull my tie, it looks nice and neat. So you might want to do this either made of plastic or metal. I like metal because it lasts a long time. You can get it anywhere in one of the shops. So these are the points I want to make about men's dressing. Ladies dressing, what can I say? Dress in a modest way. Dress in a way that doesn't draw attention to yourself, because you're there to fight for your client. So the court should be concerned to hear what you said about your client. The court shouldn't be distracted by the way you appear. Some Indian ladies like to wear saris on a Friday. That's fine as long as it complies with the colors that's approved by the court. But always make sure that your jacket is brushed. Don't turn up with your jacket with dust on your shoulders. Button up your shirt. If you're wearing a skirt, make sure it's of the appropriate length. And if you're wearing a pair of shoes, don't wear shoes that echo all the way down to the ground floor when you walk. Be mindful of that. And don't walk into court with red color hair. It's your right to have red color hair, but the idea is, if you're a lawyer, you're meant to be non-distracting. Don't write letters to me saying it's your human right to color your hair green in color. I understand that. But even if you have green hair, if you appear in court very neat, dress properly in a way that doesn't detract the attention of the court, you'll be fine. Some comments have been made about young ladies who seem to have some difficulty in obtaining materials to have a longer skirt, and other comments have been made about ladies who basically wear dresses in such a way as to look attractive. Some people find it offensive, and I'm not going to make private remarks here, but ensure that you don't do anything that will distract the judges. So those, my friends, are some of the points I can make. Let me talk about dressing in the superior courts. One of the things I want to speak about is ensure that your collar is stiffened. Don't turn up with your collar looking like a dead fish. You can have it nicely starched. Look at this. Don't come with a dirty collar like this. I took it off from my staff who are about to send it for washing and cleaning. And don't come with the collar that's squashed up like this. That's bad form. Make sure that your collar is stiff. Ensure that your bands, look at this band. I made my own bands because the bands that I bought from England all fell apart after about 5 years. Some fellas will wear bands that will reach all the way down to their waist. That's how they do it, I think, in some other country. But a band is supposed to have a minimum thickness, and it's supposed to be split at the ends. Don't have a band that, the right tongue of the band goes to the right side and the left tongue of the band reaches the other side of Sungai Gadut. Don't do that. It's got to be clean. So I have it stitched here, and then it's got to be clean. It cannot be dirty like this. I have these cloth lines attached at the back so that I can tie it anytime I want. There is an art of tying a band. If anybody hasn't taught you, let me teach you. You put it this way, you tie it here, knot it, ensure that it's tight, and then you bring the band forward. The other thing I want to teach you is when you wear your band, and this is the collar, some people wear the band below the button. That's bad form. The way to do it is the band must be above the button and covering the button like this. The wing collar must be stiff and the band must close the button. Do not wear a band below the button. So those are little things that you might want to deal with. And finally, I want to deal with the robe. When you put on your robe, never enter a court in which a judge is sitting in an open court if you don't have your robes on. Unless it's a chambers matter, make sure you are robed outside. So when you are sitting in court and the judge is walking in and you haven't dressed yourself, do not dress within the court. That's bad form. You get out, put on your robe and come back in. And when you put on your robe, you see this strip here? If you put on your robe this way, put it on carefully, and then ensure that this portion is pulled forward and it's in front of you. Secondly, make sure it's covering the front side of your body. And when you sit down, your robe may get caught in the chair. Some of the old court chairs used to have nails on them, and I've had some of the robes torn to tatters by them. So what you do is you flip and then you sit. You flip and you sit. That's how you save your robes. So I hope these little tips have not offended you, and I hope that you found them useful. With these points, I stop. Thank you very much.